Good morning and thanks for joining us for KBOI 2 News Midday. I'm Rick Douglas. Now to your top 11 stories at 11. This morning, a home in a downtown Boise neighborhood is under quarantine. All weekend, hazmat teams were hard at work removing a mercury spill on Lee Street. Boise fire officials think the mercury had been stored in a medication bottle and something resembling a baby food jar, but they don't know why the homeowners had it in the house.
Levels of mercury on the property that are being mitigated now behind me, and the levels of mercury in the house are rather high.
The EPA hired contractors to find and clean up contaminated spots. It's not illegal to own mercury, and fire officials say they don't think there's criminal activity involved here, but they're also trying to reassure neighbors that they have nothing to worry about. We'll have a complete report coming up. A Vermont man has been missing for 10 days after setting off to hike in the rugged mountains of Blaine County. The sheriff's office says they're now focusing on what's called technical high-angle rescue operations. Sheriff Gene Ramsey says the search for Luke Richardson involves 5 mountaineering teams and 2 canine units. The National Guard is assisting as well, and a drone is being used in areas too dangerous for the climbers. This weekend marked the 18th anniversary of the death of Boise police officer Mark Staal. Officer Staal was killed in the line of duty in a confrontation during a downtown traffic stop back in 1997. He is the first officer known to have been killed in the line of duty in the history of the department. He was just 29. Meridian's new public safety training center opened a little more than a half hour ago. The Meridian police chief says this facility is the first of its kind in the area. It will mean public safety agencies can train locally instead of going out of state. Police and firefighters are already training in the facility, which allows them to work together in one place. We'll have a tour today on KBOI 2 News, first at 4. A heads up for customers of the Nampa Meridian Irrigation District. The shutoff date for this year will be October 1st. That means residential water customers using pressurized irrigation systems will have to switch to municipal or other sources for watering lawns and landscaping. Meanwhile, the city of Nampa will shut off its system on Monday, October 5th, followed by the Pioneer Irrigation District on or around October 6th. In California's Monterey County, a wildfire has already taken out 24 homes, and mandatory evacuations are now in place. The Tasahara fire began on Saturday and quickly grew to 1,200 acres. Despite the efforts of 300 firefighters, officials say it is only 10% contained. One person was found dead in a vehicle inside the fire area, but the cause of the death hasn't been determined. Volkswagen stock has plunged nearly 20%, and the company's CEO has now apologized to customers. The EPA said Volkswagen equipped its diesel cars with software to give false data about emissions and skirt environmental standards. Volkswagen has stopped selling the clean diesel Volkswagens and Audis in the U.S. The automaker faces up to $18 billion, that's billion with a B, in fines. Well, this is National Drive Electric Week, so this weekend the MK Nature Center sponsored a free event to promote green power. There were all sorts of electric vehicles on display, from family cars to motorized bikes. But one caught our eye, a converted 1987 Toyota MR2, a labor of love for Michael McNeely and his dad.
It's really not as complicated as people would think. It's pretty straightforward. You pull the gas motor out and you put an electric motor in, you put a bunch of batteries in, some other control circuits, and you're good.
McNeely says if you look at both cost and energy, using batteries is always a challenge. But he settled on lithium iron phosphate batteries, which are comparable to those that you'd find in a Nissan Leaf or Tesla. On the campaign trail, a new poll shows Carly Fiorina is the latest threat to Donald Trump's lead in the GOP presidential race. The former Hewlett-Packard CEO now replaces Ben Carson for second place behind the billionaire businessman. Another poll out this morning shows Hillary Clinton still facing a tough challenge from Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders and a potential threat from Vice President Joe Biden if he chooses to run. Singing children and a small crowd waving Cuban and Vatican flags greeted Pope Francis this morning as he arrived in the city of Ojin. From the airport, Francis traveled to the city's Revolution Square for a morning mass for thousands of the faithful. Fewer than 10% of Cubans are practicing Catholics, so the hope is the Pope's visit will get more to attend church. The pontiff heads to the U.S. tomorrow for a scheduled visit at the White House. Secretary of State John Kerry says the U.S. is ready to welcome more refugees into our country. Currently, the U.S. refugee cap stands at 70,000, but Kerry says that number will grow to 85,000 next fiscal year and 100,000 the year after that. Many of those additional refugees would be from Syria. Global powers are being asked to do more to help the hundreds of thousands of migrants that have crossed into Europe this year.